The VCR hissed and clicked, projecting the image not from the past, but from the last 5 minutes. The camera in the video was still recording. It was pointed right at the locked door of the room where we were hiding. The school was called Blackwood Academy, and it sat on the north edge of town, a hulking monument to bad infrastructure and worse planning. It had been abandoned for 10 years, left intact after a structural failure in the roof floor. At least that's what the city said. For me and my friend Marco, it was a perfectly preserved relic of institutional decay. It was a cold, dry night in late November. The air inside the school was stagnant and smelled like old textbooks and cold radiator water. We were exploring the second floor, focusing on the classrooms. The sound of our footsteps was unnerving, echoing down the empty, locker-lined halls like gunshots. We eventually found the audiovisual AV storage room. It was a tight, windowless space jammed with outdated technology. Dusty slide projectors, broken cassette decks, and stacks of unlabeled electronics. Marco, a fanatic for vintage tech, immediately started rummaging. "Bingo," he whispered, pulling out a small gray plastic shell. It was a standard VHS cassette. Unlike everything else, it wasn't coated in a decade of dust. In fact, it looked almost new. Written on the label in thick black marker were 2 words: gym class. We stared at it. "No way a working tape survived here," I said, shining my flashlight on the clean casing. "We don't need to leave to find out," Marco replied, pointing his beam across the room. Against the far wall, sitting on a sturdy metal cart, was an old VCR unit. It was plugged into a bulky CRT monitor. The outlets in the AV room were the only ones we'd found in the entire school that still had power. It felt less like a coincidence, and more like a cruel setup. We jammed the tape into the slot. The machine whirred loudly, protesting the decade of stillness, then settled. Marco hit the play button. The screen immediately exploded with static. Loud white noise static that seemed to fill the room, making my ears ring. Then, the static vanished, replaced by a dark, shaky shot of the school gymnasium. The footage was old, grainy, and the color was faded to an unnerving green-yellow tint. The camera panned slowly across the massive, empty room. The gym was exactly as it was. Now, dusty, bleachers, warped floorboards, the high ceiling dark and menacing. There was no one in the video, no movement, just the cavernous silence of the abandoned space. "Lame," I muttered. Just a poorly filmed video of an empty gym. Marco was leaning close to the screen. "Wait, listen." I tilted my head. Beneath the low, insistent hum of the recording, there was a faint noiseless sound, like heavy, rhythmic scraping. It wasn't natural. It sounded like something large being slowly dragged across the floor. As the scraping noise grew louder, the footage suddenly cut. The screen went black for a terrifying second, then blinked back to life with a new image. This shot was drastically different. It was much clearer, the colors vibrant, almost HD. It was a still shot of the school's main entrance, bathed in the sickly yellow glow of the streetlights. "That's outside," I said, a knot tightening in my stomach. "Ah." That's now then, a figure appeared in the frame. It was Marco and me. The tape was showing us. It was recording the moment we had entered the school 30 minutes ago through the loose loading dock panel. Holy Marco started, jumping back from the monitor. "Who filmed us? Who put this here?" We watched in horrified silence as the video showed our past selves closing the panel and stepping into the darkness of the cafeteria. Then, the camera in the video began to move. Slowly, purposefully, the vantage point shifted away from the cafeteria and began traveling down the main hallway toward the administration wing. The camera wasn't being carried, it was moving on its own, low to the ground, almost gliding. The image was perfectly steady. It moved quickly, tracing the exact path we had taken through the first floor. It zoomed past the water fountain, skirted the open science lab door, and finally stopped right outside the closed door of the AV room. Now, the picture on the monitor was a flawless, still shot of the outside of the door we were sitting behind. Marco grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in painfully. "It's a live feed, Tim. It's a live feed, and it's right there." But then, the video image began to do something impossible. The picture started to shake violently. The focus went blurry, and the camera seemed to tip over, falling to the floor. The last clear thing we saw was the floor tiles, and then a thick black work boot stepped into the frame, right in front of the lens. The sound that followed was the worst part. The rhythmic scraping noise from the old gym footage was back, only this time it was loud and painfully real, echoing from the other side of our locked AV room door. Marco didn't need any more convincing. He ripped the power cord from the VCR. The screen died instantly, throwing the room into total darkness save for our small flashlights. We scrambled, kicking over slide trays and old boxes. Marco fumbled with the AV room door, throwing the deadbolt and yanking the heavy metal handle. We didn't run down the hallway, we flew. The immense, empty hall was suddenly alive with that slow, deliberate scraping sound following us, punctuated by a deep, hollow thump every few seconds, as if the owner of that boot was moving something heavy down the hallway. We dove through the loading dock panel and burst out into the blessed, cold night air, not stopping until we were half a mile down the highway. The next morning, we called the police with an anonymous tip about a trespasser and gave them the exact location of the AV room. We didn't mention the tape. They found the VCR, the monitor, and the metal cart. But they reported the room was otherwise empty. We went back 2 days later, telling ourselves we needed closure. We broke into the AV room again. The metal cart was still there. The VCR was gone. But lying right where the VCR had been, perfectly centered on the dusty metal cart, was the gray plastic cassette. It was labeled just the same, in thick black marker. Gym class. And underneath that title, a new, tiny inscription was scratched into the plastic casing, almost too small to read. It looked like the end result of that heavy, rhythmic scraping, final cut.